maybe a week ago, we were talking, or at least we were concerned that Big Brother was watching. There was a interest in whether the Ring camera was able to capture any suspects, and we sure found out. We found out yesterday
it was a Nest camera.
Yeah, Nest, Ring, whatever. But well, that's a fair point. But so we did find out yesterday that regardless of subscription, though, because there was concern that until they got this video, they wouldn't have any
right
captured moment. She hadn't
paid for storage. Right.
So if you want to believe that it was what? Nest? Ring?
Nest.
Yeah. Well, Nest and Ring are owned by the same company, Google, which owns everything else. And according to their website, there is no charge for basic service. If you want other features, like contiguous monitoring, etc., and this is where, and again, I was upset from a government overreach perspective. Hey, if they're not paying for it, how does anyone have a copy of that video, right?
Right, and you did a little research on how these things are
Right.
temporarily stored, and
Well,
an analogy to.
No, go ahead. Sorry, I mean.
No, you had a good analogy, so go ahead.
Well, so again, back to where I was upset from an overreach perspective, if indeed, or again, maybe paint that picture again. All these cameras that are everywhere, whether it's, Alexa listening to you, which does Alexa have a camera built into it? I don't know. It doesn't matter. But your phones have cameras. Your game units have cameras. All these
Your
things,
laptops.
everything has a camera. Right? And so now if you think about, that overreach of at any given moment, there could be somebody at the other end flipping a switch, just like that South Park episode where everyone was watching people sit with the seatbelt on the toilet, right? But at any given moment, somebody could watch, and that's the concern. That's the concern.
Mm-hmm.
But in this case, and again, we all were wondering, well, if they didn't pay for storage, how did they get this? Well, sure enough, there was a video. And for the last 24 hours, we're all enamored with trying to track down this derelict that, or some think a mask under the mask to make them look more girlish, right?
Right.
With his Mexican 6-gun strapped to his belt out front. But back to your point, the thing that
how do they? Okay,
I'm still trying. So I was trying to wrap my head around the idea of that they were able to grab video from a camera, supposedly, just being monitored by your phone, when somebody rings it. That's another thing. Now, again, maybe the video we have been seeing has been edited, but there are the person walks up the walkway before they start messing with the door. Now, my guess, too, is I don't think a burglar is going to necessarily ring your doorbell that has the camera on it. We're all under that impression, or at least I had been. Maybe I'm the idiot. That
right.
The recording, it's a button, it makes a noise.
And then you start recording.
Then two-way conversation with your phone. You have a camera. You can talk to the person, whether you're halfway across the country or sitting at your living room. But that's how that works, right? Or at least that's the way it was designed.
Right.
The intent.
But then you realize that they hadn't, that's not how it was interacted. So maybe it was a motion detector to set off to record. But where does it record to?
So that's where I was getting at, right? So we're all worried about, and maybe I'm taking a sigh of relief and going, oh, maybe we shouldn't worry because, back in the old days with CCT and these, convenience store robberies that you'd always get these, VCR smeary, lines through tapes of an incident that happened at some, convenience store or ATM.
Because the tape was so old because they kept re-recording over it.
Yeah, VHS was, right, think about it. what it was. It was a VHS tape or Betamax that was constantly recording. So in that case, yes. And think about what they've done, right? So this is why coding is so important. So think about the logic. So here I've got cameras and nothing happened in my store. So I'm going to let it continue to record. And only, of course, when I come in the next day and if there's something that happened or if there was a robbery overnight or there's a fire, hey, I've always got, I can hit the rewind button and see what happened, right? Because they're always recording.
Mm-hmm.
They're capturing it. And so I guess, again, where I was trying to, in my mind, think about, oh my goodness, that would be a lot of storage. Where do you put everyone's camera's images? Yeah, in the cloud, but how do you do that? So again, a little research, and the idea of most of these cameras are working on a some of them similar technology where they're constantly recording, but then they analyze what they've seen for the last 10, 15 seconds. And if anything moved, then they go, oh, we might want to save or start recording and then give somebody an opportunity. But they basically have like a buffer, I guess you could call it, or they have a mini loop where these things are always recording, but nothing is
checking.
And then I hate these words. Then some
AI.
software, but that's just
Software,
logic.
yeah.
It's logic. The logic is, hey, do I check my VCR tape in the 7-Eleven from 20 years ago because half of my store is burnt? Now I go look. So logically, here's an event. Let me rewind the tape, right? Of course, maybe the tape got burned up, but bad example. But in this case, the camera can be constantly recording something and eventually analyzing it and then re-recording over that same temporary storage it has on its own little camera, body. That's one thought, right? That this is how they got that. But then how did it get to the cloud, right? Because there was motion. There was an event. So back to this whole idea, cameras are getting smarter. So maybe what they do is, like I said, instead of recording constantly and analyzing as it goes, maybe it just looks for motion.
And then starts recording.
And starts recording. Well, of course, that can't be really that great considering, and this is where, again, I'm going through, found some research, and what's kind of neat is that we've gotten smarter. So the one that I like, and I'd be curious because we've got ADT, and I'm never certain other than if it's a triggered event or I push a button saying record, I never know how it gets things. You can set up a trigger that when there's movement, but how does it know? Well, I didn't know this, but it can either use what they call pixel detection. And again, it's constantly recording. And if it sees changes in pixels, that's when it goes, I need to let somebody know. Then starts recording.
And I need to keep it.
And keep it. Or the one that I think makes the most sense is using passive infrared. So your cameras, if at night you look at your camera, it's got those little red LED dots, or you can see night vision. The idea there is part of night vision is heat vision too. And so when the camera senses heat, it then says, maybe it's a person.
Or an animal.
Which then goes to your whole little spiel about, wasn't it kind of convenient, I guess? And at least maybe I was being somewhat of a conspiracy theorist, but for this in the Super Bowl there was a commercial for that dog watching. What was it? What's the service? Basically, they used the example of, and this is where other people have gotten upset.
Oh, it's Search Party.
Search Party.
It's a feature that's defaulted on. So if you didn't know you have it, it's constantly on. And
your home security.
So
regardless of what type you have.
So that way, if you have a lost dog, you hit Search Party, I need help. And so then the AI goes to look at everybody else's Ring footage if you have this setting on. And it will look for your dog.
Or look for, technically,
wink,
motion.
Wink. Yeah.
Well, or heat or motion of any recorded video recently. Or maybe it starts, I guess. But see, so therein lies the rub, right? It can't go back and recreate things that already happened unless it is actually storing it.
Right.
somewhere.
Right. But you're supposed to feel good because who wouldn't want to help a neighbor? So what happens? You say, I've lost my dog, and it will ping, AI will scour all the feeds of everybody that has this feature on by default. And if it detects the dog in somebody else's yard, they will notify that other person to say, hey, we think this lost dog is in your yard. Do you want to help? And then that person can say,
that's cool.
That yes, go ahead and let's share information. So they're touting it as if you're in complete control of your own information until you decide to. But you've already shared your information because the AI already scoured it. But
Well, you're allowing the image captured on your devices to be
searched.
yes, if indeed they find something deemed searchable, right? Based on motion, based on dog AI video things,
Right.
taking a squat, whatever. But so I don't know. Do we feel any better that yes,
No.
the cameras are always recording,
No, it doesn't make me feel better.
but I guess what's the idea of a security system? We want to feel secure at night.
Right.
So whether we hire a bunch of people to watch over us on purpose,
But then you feel like your privacy is invaded because you can't do what you want to do because somebody's watching.
well, so that's where, hence automation technology
Right.
steps in, and we've got cameras that,
You don't have to see that somebody's watching you, but yeah, I guess what you don't know
well,
can't give you the heebie-jeebies.
that's just it. And
you don't know.
And where does that, where does that line get drawn is, for me, I guess the only thing that is upsetting is in the olden days with my 7-Eleven convenience store example and the contiguous VCR tape, the cameras there had a blinky little red light
Oh, to let you know
to let you know you're being recorded.
Right.
That's it. That, for me, is still, because there have been times, conscientious that I am, we have one camera that's pointed on the inside, right by the front door. So of course that would be, great if, God forbid somebody were trying to get in. Once they got in, there's a camera pointed inside, or for other reasons. But often I don't get up from, in the middle of the night for the 4 times that I pee every 90 minutes, or if I want to go downstairs, I put a shirt on because I'm conscientious that somebody at ADT land is going to laugh at the fat ass that's walking shirtless through the house to go get some more things to eat to make them bigger. And that's just, when is it watching or when isn't?
Right, because there's no light saying, hey, it's...
Yeah, I'd like to know at least when I am being watched. Or I shouldn't say that. I shouldn't say it that way. When I'm being recorded.
Right.
Because in this case, we have technology that has identified somebody in this Nancy Guthrie abduction, ransom situation, and it provided a video from its camera out front detecting somebody that was walking up to the front door. It's wonderful that they have it. Like I said, for me, it was creating that whole anxiety, fear, question of how does it work, but at the same time,
ooh, how does it work?
How does it, yeah. And how is, as they, are constantly pointing out, like in this dog situation service, which again is clever, that we have the last say in it. Now, here's the question. We certainly were anxious to see if there was any video, but at the time, was there necessarily consent given to have recorded said stranger walking up to the door because motion was detected. And again, not to get into all that, but that privacy. I think those rights are waived when you're trying to do something nefarious like that they were doing. I mean, disguising themselves, 2 o'clock in the morning.
And I think that's, a lot of people, they value peace of mind, of safety over worries of overreach. And neither one is wrong to have a higher priority. It just depends on your viewpoint. There's good and there's bad. I don't know.
So that it makes me feel a little better, I guess. In summary, so the fact that there was no service, there was everyone was getting upset. Media was riling us all up that, hey, they weren't paying for their service. First of all, the service is free. If you buy this thing, you're getting this quote cloud backup of an event. So, and we defined how events are triggered, which again I think are mostly good things, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, in our case, in most cases, people's cameras are pointed inside. Yes, we got one on the inside. Again, there's a reason to have that, but it goes back to, well, do you feel weird getting up at 3 a.m. and want to walk, past your camera, just in your underwear, or do you want to put a shirt on?
Right.
And my point there was that it'd be nice to know when it's recording.
Mm-hmm.
But then, of course, you wouldn't want to do that if indeed some stranger out in the 6-gun is walking up. You wouldn't want a big red flashing light to try to get, hey, look at me, I'm recording you.
Yeah.
See, well, we want it every way,
right?
And when it's convenient for us.
And that's the thing with the whole Guthrie case. Why didn't they have the footage before? Why now? Why wouldn't they, if they've had it? Well, it's an investigation. Just because we as a society are interested in it, the police don't have to tell everybody, yes, we did find a recording. We want to have, the police need to have a leg up on the suspect. If they said, hey, yeah, we got footage, then you want the suspects to feel like they've upped everybody. You want them to relax. So I can see why you wouldn't want to tell everybody immediately, yep, we have footage. We get upset if there is footage. We get upset if there wasn't footage.
Right. Our right to know.
Our right to know
supersedes our right to exist.
Right. And it's an investigation. They didn't have to tell us they even had it. They didn't have to release it.
So watching all these other social media celebrities, what we were talking about yesterday, in particular YouTube. Now, I would be curious if there are any podcasters out there specifically talking about this. I'm sure they've been on, because we've been watching some of these YouTube feeds. Hell, I found myself this morning, 2 o'clock, eating a ho-ho with my t-shirt on and my underwear, but a t-shirt on, watching the one channel had the most. I always go with the one that had the most views or viewers live. So I'm watching this, and I find myself, he's in the car driving to the next location where they thought they had a suspect, and turned out that it was not a big deal. But I'm sitting there watching myself watch somebody drive at night in Arizona for 20 minutes.
It's got to be dark.
That's the most
yeah.
and of course the best part, I also have the captions on, the text, as they fly by. In 10 minutes I go by and I go, I really haven't been able to read any of these texts because they go by so fast.
Oh, the comments?
Yeah. The chat or super chat.
Super chat.
But again, we have got to figure out how all the social media stuff works, because these folks, like my favorite storm chaser live video celebrities, was it Max Velocity? Max Velocity. I mean, dude, I think what you do is great.
You have to say it correctly.
No,
you have to do it in a radio voice. Max
Velocity. Hold on. Max Velocity. So I learned
good.
one feature on my audio board, which again, anybody got a better one? Um, I'm always willing to grovel, but so yeah, so I'm watching this feed, but yeah, so our celebrities, celebrity social media people, and yeah, this again, there were probably 60,000 people watching this thing, or at least again,
At
if
2
you believe
a.m.
if you believe the counts,
Right.
60,000 live viewers. Hell, I mean,
Maybe somebody's asleep and it's still on the channel.
well, even
Mm.
still, that's
It's a view.
there were many episodes of Gilligan's Island that never got more than 20,000 viewers. I mean, this is tremendous, but no, I'm just kidding. Gilligan's Island was great, but it's amazing how much of the social media content we all consume in all the hours of the day. When do we work? Honest to God, when do we? Or is this is I noticed this the other day. Again, sorry, my ADHD pills have worn off, but watching the downhill in the Olympics, which is a topic we want to talk about here in the near future, but
Right.
The drone footage chasing the downhill skiers, absolutely
Stunning.
amazing.
Stunning.
Makes me want to watch that sport because honestly,
Feels like you're doing it.
yeah, I never thought it. Yeah, I could break a sweat. Have another ho ho. But it truly, like I said, it gets you involved. With that sport, it's all about you don't really want to see someone wipe out, but you kind of do, right?
Yeah. Oh, that
Unless
poor
it's
Lindsay.
no, that's horrible. And then she had her surgery, so my point is, all these other jobs that we never thought would be jobs, drone operator, whoever's flying this drone now, or you brought up a good point because we should have. Oh, that's a good half-hour story. The 4 drones that I ran into the top of the house. Oh, for Christ's sake!
The best day, two best days of
I
having a
was
drone.
so-
The day you get it, and then the day you're done with it.
Unreal. Because my point here is that so these drones are pretty sophisticated. They kind of fly themselves. Part of the problem, though, is when you're looking at it on television and when you're flying it, and the drones really don't have a front and a back like a plane, right? Because there's no front and back. It's hard to know which way is up, on your joystick on your damn control. And so there's a feature called Go Home on a drone. That again is and the drone has to make connection with at least 10 different satellites, and there's just so much telemetry going on. It's absolutely astounding. But what happens is it also counters and keeps sense and track of where you are, because it wants to be able to know that you see it, because of course there's always a concern that you fly out of the range. Once it flies out of its range, you can't do anything because it's taking its last direction from you. If you tell it to go right or north, again, this is 3 dimensions, it'll keep going until you tell it to turn a different way. And hell, if it keeps going and you forget to tell it and it's out of range, it's going to keep going. But yeah, I had thought it was cute, and I sent it up over the front of the house, getting great video. Sent it back. Hell, was almost over the trees in the back of our yard, over to the next area where they were building a house, and bring it back.
And it follows the same path,
Same
the
path.
X and Y coordinates, and not necessarily the Z.
Well, it has motion. It has sensors around it, so it won't run into things theoretically. But the bottom, so part of our house, part of the roof, one side of the house has a lower end of the roof than the other side, and it decides to come back on the higher side. And next thing I know, I'm watching a video of this. I thought I was watching ridiculousness for a minute because this drone all of a sudden out of the air starts falling, cascading, and then I realized, oh my God, that's it. That's this drone. But yeah, the drones in the Olympics, absolutely phenomenal. And I've only seen them with the downhill skiers, but yeah. So
technology used in
new
a good
job,
way,
right?
Yeah.
And how our phones have now turned people like Max Velocity on YouTube. That's
Into a
great name.
star, yeah.
I mean, what a perfect weather name.
That's better than Majestic Storm.
Oh, hold on. Go ahead.
Majestic Storm.
She's a local Charlotte weather person, and they made her show her driver's license. Her name is really Majestic Storm, which is great.
There were
we used to have Larry Sprinkle. That was kind of. I'm sure that was made up.
And then our traffic guy was Trip Harder.
Yeah, good stuff. But yeah.
ADHD much?
Yeah, well, those are jobs. I mean, my point there was we're watching. Okay, so I'm watching somebody driving to another location about this whole Nancy Guthrie situation, and we hope certainly it works out for the best. Don't forget, we still want to talk about. Well, I just brought up a couple new ones. Hell, having a drone, I'm gonna have to put that on the list.
Mm-hmm.
That story, even though I told most of it. We still want to talk about starting your own hot sauce business. Go down that path in that series. But again, appreciate the time that we've spent together. Until next time, this is Jim.
I'm Diane.
You're listening to The Works.